Hello, my name is Courtney. I am one of the prospective student recruiters for Faculty of Science, and today's video is the Registration 101 workshop specifically for Faculty of Science students. And the University of Alberta acknowledges that we are recording today from Treaty 6 territory and respects the histories, languages, and cultures of all First Nations people whose presence continues to enrich our vibrant community. Today's agenda, we will go through how to plan your degree, including degree structure, terminology that you'll need to be familiar with, understanding your requirements and where to find them, as well as some course-specific tips for science. Then we will go over Bear Tracks and My Schedule Builder, some tips and tricks in there, as well as a registration demo video. So getting right into planning your degree. All Bachelor of Science major and honors degrees are going to be 120 units. They're designed to be completed in 4 years, but that is not a requirement. If you were to do a full course load and graduate in 4 years, your degree structure is going to look like this. Each year, you'll be doing 30 units worth of coursework. If each course is worth 3 units, that means you'd be doing 10 courses per year. That is then split between fall and winter terms of 15 units each. So 15 units with, again, each course being 3 units, that equals 5 courses per semester. That is the maximum. Spring-summer courses are not required, but you are able to take them. Not all courses are offered during the spring and summer, so just be mindful of this when you're trying to schedule long-term, but you can still take spring and summer courses if you're wanting maybe a lighter course load in some of your fall and winters. Something to be aware of is that the Bachelor of Science Computing Science with Software Practice option, that degree is 5 years in length. The last year of the degree, you have a required internship component, so it extends the length of the degree by a little bit. So here's a variation where you'd still be graduating in 4 years' time, but you're taking some semesters with lighter course loads, some semesters with spring and summer courses. Again, though, not all courses are offered in the spring and summer, so you'll have to do a little bit of homework and research ahead of time to determine whether you can actually structure your degree like this. How's your degree going to be laid out? So the Bachelor of Science major degree, there are 3 different variations on how you can set up your degree. So you have your major subject, that is where the majority of your courses are going to be in that specific subject area. If you are undeclared, that's okay. You do have until the end of second year to declare your major. If you're choosing to only do a major, then half of all of your courses are going to be option courses. So that means anything that you are able to register in that you have prerequisites for is considered an option course. Most students opt for the major and a minor, so it gives that second area of study to focus on, a second set of course requirement lists to follow. But you do still have lots of room for option courses if you want to mix in a couple other subjects that are unrelated to your major and minor. The last variation is a double major. So as you can see, because a major in itself takes up a little bit less than half of your overall courses, having 2 majors is going to significantly reduce the amount of option courses that are available to you. So if you choose to add a optional minor, you can do it in any one of these science subjects. There are some restrictions, of course, so you wouldn't be able to do a physics major with an astrophysics minor just because there's too much overlap. But you can also choose to do your minor in another subject. So any of these subjects that are outside of the Faculty of Science. There's over 1,600 different major minor combinations, so get creative when you're thinking about what you want to study. For example, I had a student who really wanted to work in movie pyrotechnics long term, so she decided to do a major in chemistry and a minor in drama, where she took a lot of theater design courses. A Bachelor of Science honors degree is laid out a little bit differently because you're going a lot more in depth into your chosen subject. So it is more than half of your courses are going to be in that specific honors subject area. Plus, there's an added research component to the degree that is a requirement and is built into the degree in the last year. You can still do research in a major degree, just in an honors, it is required, and you have to maintain higher academic standards as well. So as you can see though, there is lots of room for option courses still, so you're not losing out on courses there. You can add a minor to your honors subject. However, there are quite a few restrictions because some honors minor combinations would actually equate to more than 120 units, which would not be allowed. So there are some restrictions to that. And if you are able to add a minor, it significantly reduces the amount of option courses that you'll have available to you, if any. For anyone in the Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Education combined degree, your degree is 150 units. So that is spread out across 5 years of full-time study, the first 2 years being in the Faculty of Science and the last 3 years in the Faculty of Education. So you'd be graduating with 2 degrees in 5 years. Understanding class types. Each class at the U of A can potentially have 3 different class components: a seminar, a lecture, or a lab. So when a professor speaks about various topics, this is the lecture portion. The majority of all of your courses will have a lecture component. The hands-on component of a course is the lab. Because you're a science student, a lot of your upper level courses will have a lab component to it because we're a very hands-on degree and faculty. So the class based on discussion, project work, or shared assignments is a seminar. Majority of courses do not have a seminar component to them, but it is something that there is the potential for. How do you know if your class has any one of these components? Well, in the course catalog, in the course calendar, and in Bear Tracks, you're going to see 3 numbers beside that class name. A number, dash number, dash number. These correspond to the approved hours per week for the lecture, the seminar, or the lab. In this example, there are 3 hours of lecture in a week, which is pretty typical. That's either 1 hour on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or 1.5 hours on Tuesday, Thursday. In this example, there are 0 seminar hours. Sometimes you might see a 1/2, which might mean that there's 1 hour of seminar, but only every second week. The last number in this example is 3, which means 3 lab hours per week. If there's a lab component that says 3, it is typically one chunk of time, one chunk of 3 hours that'll be in your schedule, opposed to split between multiple days. Understanding your program requirements. So your primary source of registration information and program requirements is going to be in the calendar. So that's uab.ca/calendar. You can also use the course catalog to help browse for courses either outside of science, for option courses, or even some upper level courses that you eventually would like to take. Course catalog is easy for navigating that. And uab.ca/reg has tips for how to actually register for your classes in Bear Tracks, how to drop and swap them, and some other functionalities. So I'm going to switch over to the calendar, and I'm going to show you how you can easily access it from almost any U of A webpage. So if you go uab.ca, it'll come up with this main landing page. On almost any page at the U of A, if you scroll all the way down to the footer, you will find University Calendar here. This is the easiest way to access that information. And you'll also find under Email and Apps, your Gmail, your eClass, your Bear Tracks, your Google Drive, as well as a bunch of other resources, including the course catalog. So let me go to the calendar here. This is a page that you are going to want to star or flag or bookmark because you will be returning to it on a regular basis. You are always going to be held to the requirements for the year that you were admitted. So in this case, 2025, 2026. Every year there is a new calendar that comes out, but you always want to refer to the year that you were admitted. Under this nice picture here, you would go to undergraduate programs, Faculty of Science, and then Bachelor of Science, Major, and Honors. There are some other links here, but these are for older degree structures. So even if you were to click on this other Bachelor of Science Honors, it would tell you to navigate to the most recent up-to-date link. And here is the one where you can find requirements for the Bachelor of Science Specialization in Science and Education combined degree. Let's go into Major and Honors. This is the important page to flag. Most of this information on here I am going to just quickly skim over because it's not going to be relevant to you right now, but it will be in the future when it comes to graduation requirements and some higher level requirements as well. Let's start with common course requirements. These are common to all Bachelor of Science major and honor students, regardless of what your subject area is. So all students need to take communication and writing courses, successful completion of a minimum of 6 units in English or writing studies. So if one course is worth 3 units, you would be taking 2 of these courses in any combination of English or writing studies. English and writing studies courses, they do fill up very quickly because almost every student at the U of A needs to have them. If you are not planning to go into a professional program like pharmacy, dentistry, dental hygiene, medical laboratory sciences, or a few others, then you do not have to take your English in first year. You can wait and take it a little bit later, no problem. All students also need to take an Indigenous Studies course, at least one, and there is a link here that shows you all of the different courses that would meet this criteria. Third common course requirement is breadth from outside of Faculty of Science. We want you to be a well-rounded student, so you do have to take some courses that are not related to your specific major or minor. You need to complete at least 6 units from 2 of these different categories: applied science, business, humanities, fine arts and performing arts, and social sciences. And this link here will again give you a list of everything that you can choose from that falls under these specific categories. However, you'll see that some of them don't have specific courses. Some of them here do, they're specific, other ones are not. So if you're only seeing just the course code, so in this case linguistics, it means that any course number that has the acronym of linguistics can be used to meet this social sciences requirement. That's just an example, but there are tons and tons of different other subjects that you can take. You'll see some here under applied sciences that end in the letter E, and they say C notes. These ones are actually engineering courses. So these courses are restricted to you. So you as a science student are not able to enroll in these engineering courses. The reason that they're listed here is because sometimes we see students who transfer from the Faculty of Engineering to science. So these courses are here because we can honor some of those courses that they have taken previously under engineering to fall under this applied sciences category. But again, you are restricted and will not be able to register in them. Breadth from within the Faculty of Science. So you need one course, at least one course, from each of these categories. Basic sciences, you're probably familiar with. That's your typical biology, chemistry, and physics. Formal sciences is more the computational and math side, so computing science, mathematical physics, math, or statistics. And then your specialized sciences. So these are all the different subject areas that we have within science. You need to have at least one. Lab and field experience. You need to have at least one course from this specific list of courses. You may have noticed that you've seen Bio 107 on multiple different categories. So here, under the lab and field experience, as well as the breadth from within science, the basic sciences. So if you were to take Bio 107, that means that you're actually satisfying 2 different program requirements. The course itself is still only worth 3 units, but you're able to use it in 2 different categories to cover those requirements. So I'm going to skip over some of this information here because, again, it is a little bit higher level. It does talk more about double counted courses, as I just mentioned, courses falling into more than one category. This information will be a lot more important to you later on. Changes to your program or subject area. Right now, you are not able to make any changes to the degree subject area that you had applied to. So if you are wanting to change your major subject or declare your major if you are undeclared, if you want to change your honor subject or declare or change your minor subject, you will be given a internal faculty form at the end of your first year. So the end of winter semester, you will have access to a form that you can fill out to simply switch your minor, your honors, or your major subject. Some may be competitive, so some may require a specific GPA. If you're wanting to transfer from major to an honors program or an honors to a major, you will have to submit a new application form. Applications open up every year on October the 1st. So now into subject areas. This is where the specific courses for your honors, your major, or your minor will be. And this table here also lists whether a specific subject can be offered as a double major, as well as any restrictions. So as I mentioned earlier, that you are not able to have a physics major with an astrophysics minor, that is where this information will be listed if there is too much overlap between certain subjects. So let's get into these specific subject areas. Let's go biochemistry, for example. So here's where you're going to find the exact biochemistry related courses that you need to satisfy your honors, your major, or your minor in that subject. Make sure you're clicking on the correct hyperlink to take you to the correct part of the page because it's always going to start with honors. So in this case, let's go down to major. So you will need these foundation courses, and you can think of them as foundational in order to build on top of for some of these other higher level courses later on. The foundation courses are typically prerequisites for these higher ones. So I would recommend prioritizing them in your schedule in first year. So in this case, we're also seeing Bio 107 again. That means taking that one course has now checked off 3 different requirements: your major, your breadth from within science, and your lab experience. Therefore, freeing up some more option courses in your schedule. You'll also need to take 3 units from one of these specific subjects, as well as 3 units from one of these 2 physics courses. So it lists 2, but you're only doing one of them. Then later on, these are your higher level senior courses. Some of them are specific, some of them you get to choose from, and some of them are completely up to you. So when it says any 200, 300, or 400 level course with one of these course designations, that's where the course catalog comes into effect. So I'm going to jump over to the course catalog here to show you how to find that information. On the side here is where you'll see all the different faculties. I do have some tips in the online module as to which faculties you'll be able to take courses in, because some of these will just automatically be restricted to, so no need to go in them. For example, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Law, Nursing, you don't have to go into those because you won't be able to take those courses. Biochemistry is actually under Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry. It's one of our joint programs. So I'm going to go over there and I'm going to look at biochemistry. So when the course requirement says any 200, 300, 400 level courses, what I recommend students do is kind of scroll down to the bottom to the 400 level courses and find something interesting that you might be wanting to take in the future. Look at the prerequisites and work backwards. So for example, if you really want to take Biochem 415, Metabolic Modifications in Health and Disease, the prerequisite for this is Biochem 310. Okay, so let's go to Biochemistry 310, Bioenergetics and Metabolism. This one has a prerequisite of Biochem 200, Chem 102, and Chem 263. Therefore, these are courses that you're going to want to prioritize in your first or second year. And remember those 3 numbers to determine whether there is a lecture, a seminar, or a lab. This is where you can find that. So in this case, this Bioenergetics and Metabolism has 3 hours of lecture, 0 seminar, and 0 lab. And when it comes to choosing option courses, you don't have a specific list to choose from to fill in the rest of your degree outside of your major, your minor, and those common course requirements. So an option course is any other course that you meet the requirements for. That's where the course catalog is going to be really handy. So if we go back to the list of faculties, let's say you want to take a couple courses through the Faculty of Arts because you are really interested in folklore. You can click on that specific subject and see all the different courses that are potentially available, and they will also have notes as to whether there are prerequisites. So because there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of courses to choose from, it does take a while to go through the course catalog. I do highly, highly recommend students to take the time to do that when they are planning out the rest of your degree, because you'll probably come across some interesting courses that you didn't even know existed. All right, so now back to the U of A calendar. So hopefully you understand now where to find these specific courses that fall under these categories and how to navigate the course catalog. If you have a minor that is outside of science, I just jumped back to this main science degree page, and if you scroll down to the bottom, this is where you will find those subject areas outside of science. So for example, if you wanted to do a minor in agriculture, you would just click that link and it would take you to the list of courses that you will need for that specific subject. So here again, there is a foundational course. So if you're wanting this as your minor, good idea to take this foundational course in first year so that you can build on it into these higher level courses later on. Now let's get into science course tips. We want you to create a balanced schedule so as not to overload yourself in first year, especially in your first fall semester. So we recommend 2 to 3 labs per term, because if you do have a class that has a lab, remember that it typically has a 3-hour time block associated with it that you'll have to fit into your schedule somewhere. And that can be a little bit tricky if you have too many labs. Psychology labs, those are different though. So psychology labs, they won't actually have a time associated with them in Bear Tracks, because in the course syllabus or in the maybe first day, first week of classes, your psych professor will give you a list of psychology research projects that are happening, that are being conducted by graduate students, and you actually get to be a research participant in part of that study. So they will give you a specific list and specific times to choose from for that lab component. Other tips are prerequisites. As you probably know, a prerequisite is required before you can take something. For example, Chem 101 is a prerequisite for Chem 102, so you will have to take 101 in a semester prior. Sometimes you'll see co-requisites. This is typically only for certain physics classes, but a co-requisite is something that is required before or in the same semester. So Physics 146, for example, has a co-requisite of Math 146, which needs to be taken in the same semester. Or you can take Math 146 in a semester prior. 100 level calculus. You may see Math 114 or Math 115 course codes floating around, but those are old course codes. The course itself has now been split into 3 different variations to help students digest the content a little bit better, to understand calculus as it relates to life sciences, physical sciences, or business and economics based on the assignments and examples that are used in the class. All 3, 134, 144, and Math 154 are all considered equivalent courses because the overall course content is the same. What is an option course? As I've already mentioned, an option course is any course that you meet the requirements for. So we are not able to help advise on what is the best option course to take because that is completely up to you. And again, where the course catalog comes into play, because it will be a good idea to sit down and take some time just to go through it, just to find some courses that you maybe never thought of before. AP and IB transfer credit. So if you receive a final grade of 4 or higher in an AP course or 6 or higher in an IB course, we will automatically grant you transfer credit. This is similar for GCE A-level courses if you receive a grade of A. So those transfer credits will be automatic, but there are some things to consider. Accepting that transfer credit means that there's one less course that you have to pay tuition for, one less course in your overall degree, and allows for potentially a lighter course load. You can, however, decline your transfer credits, although we do encourage you to accept them. But if you want to decline it, there's some other things to consider. That grade in the new attempted post-secondary version will be part of your GPA, whereas the transfer credit won't show a grade, it'll just say credit. Also, if you were to retake the course, do you feel that you'll do better in the course? Is it going to be an easy A for you? Or would you rather just skip it and go on to some higher level content or take some options instead? The choice is up to you. At uab.ca/AP or /IB is where you'll find more information about declining credits if you want to, as well as a list of those transferable courses if you meet the specific grade thresholds. When it comes to transfer credit, we are not able to grant you this transfer credit until after we receive all of your final results. So this may mean that course registration will open before we know whether or not you'll get transfer credit for one of the courses. If you are quite confident that you will get the credit, there's no need to register in that specific class. You can schedule other classes instead. If you're not sure if you're going to get the credit, then you can add the course to your schedule, enroll in it, and then once you get the credit later in the summer, then you can just drop it so that another student can have a seat in that class. For post-secondary transfer students who are waiting on a transfer credit report, you won't be able to register in higher level courses Even though you may have the prerequisites from your previous post-secondary work, you won't be able to register in those higher level courses until that transfer credit assessment is complete. Due to volume, this does take time, so we recommend that you register in other courses that maybe don't have prerequisites, or add some more option courses to your schedule, because you can always switch them later on to another higher level course once we eventually grant you transfer credit. Professional program tip sheets. So for anyone who is interested in going on to one of these professional programs, there are very comprehensive tip sheets at uab.ca/reg101 at the bottom of the page. Some of these programs do require some specific courses that you need to take first in order to apply to one of the programs. So dentistry and pharmacy, for example, require 2 years of specific science-related courses before you're able to apply. Dental hygiene, dietetics, medical laboratory science, and radiation therapy only require 1 year of specific courses. Law and medicine, those programs do not require specific courses or a specific program, but there is still a tip sheet at Reg 101 if you're curious about what you'll need in the future for admission purposes. For students who do want these professional programs that have the 1 to 2 years of prerequisite courses, I highly recommend that you prioritize those required courses in your schedule. A lot of them are going to overlap with science courses that are part of your overall degree requirements anyways. So in the event that you are not admitted to that professional program on the first try, at least you're still making progress towards a science degree that you would still be in. Building your class timetable. Some things to keep in mind, especially when you are reading the notes of courses and adding them to your schedule. Is there any prerequisites? If you don't have the prerequisite, you won't be able to validate that course and enroll in it. Are there any restrictions? Again, make sure you're reading all of the course description notes to see if maybe a specific section of that class is restricted to students in other programs. This is a very common error message that we see students email about, but the restrictions as to why you can't register are going to be right in the description of that error message. So please make sure to read that. Is the class you're looking for offered in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening? Keep in mind that 8 a.m. classes do mean 8 a.m. exams. So if you're not a morning person, maybe schedule your classes a little later in the day. Which campus or language is the class in? If you're not able to read the course description of a course, it's probably in French and probably offered at our French campus, Campus Saint-Jean. Campus Saint-Jean is a very short shuttle bus ride from North Campus, so you are able to take courses there if you would like. That's not a problem. Just make sure not to schedule them back to back with a North Campus course because you won't have time to get between them. We also have our Augustana campus in Camrose. However, you'll be restricted from scheduling those courses, so that probably shouldn't be an issue. Which buildings are your classes going to be in? I know this map is very tiny, but I wanted to show you for context that if you have a class in that very top star, that's the biological sciences building on the edge of campus. If you have a back-to-back class in one of the stars at the bottom, which would be in ECA or medical sciences building, which is across the street by the hospital, that will be more than a 10-minute walk. So you won't have time to get between those classes in that little break that you have. However, I wouldn't worry about this for first year because most of your classes will be clustered on these stars up at the top. And that 10-minute break between classes is plenty of time to get between them. The 4 stars that are in a row there, those buildings are actually connected by pedways, so you don't even need to go outside. Understanding Bear Tracks. So Bear Tracks is a very valuable tool that you'll be accessing on a regular basis at uab.ca/beartracks and signing in with your CCID. Bear Tracks is where you build your timetable, you enroll in classes, you can drop and swap classes, and eventually check your grades pay your tuition, and access the academic advisement report. You do have access to this report right now, but it is a tool that you'll be able to use in later years of your study. That is basically a checklist saying yes or no to have you met this specific requirement category, not necessarily a list of all the courses that you need. That is in the calendar. The academic advisement report, though, it will show you how many option courses that you have available left in your degree. It's very difficult to predict that ahead of time, but it'll become more clear once you start taking courses. The primary two tiles that we are going to use for scheduling and planning purposes in BearTracks is going to be My Schedule Builder and Manage Classes. Before I get into that, for anyone who has more than one program offer and has accepted more than one, you will have to go into BearTracks under Manage Classes to change your program each term to make sure that you are in the proper program. So if you accepted an offer for your second choice program, let's say, and then later on you were accepted into your first choice, and your first choice is really what you want, you have to change your program in BearTracks. Understanding My Schedule Builder. So the My Schedule Builder tile has a couple features. There's a shopping cart and a validate. Your shopping cart is where you are adding all of the courses that you want to take for the fall semester and the winter semester. It is a planning tool. If there are courses in your cart, you are not actually enrolled in them. There's also a validate function where you can check whether or not you actually have the correct prerequisites to take a course. This validate option is not going to work for your winter term courses because technically you are not registered in the prerequisites for the fall term, even though they might be in your shopping cart. Technically you're not registered, therefore winter courses will not be validated. That's okay. When your enrollment date comes and you actually register in fall term, that validation error will disappear. The Manage Classes tile is where you will go in to actually enroll in your classes. So this will happen when course registration opens, which for most incoming students is on April the 3rd. In this screenshot here, you will see a little section on the side that says My Enrollment Dates. You can always double check there to see what your enrollment date is. So now I have a short little video that goes over the registration process in BearTracks and how to add those classes to your schedule and enroll.
Hello and welcome. My name is Everett and I'm a student at the University of Alberta. Today, I'll be walking you through the steps to build your schedule using BearTracks and My Schedule Builder. This will be helpful as you begin your journey at the U of A or if you're using My Schedule Builder for the first time. There are 4 steps to enrolling in classes using BearTracks and My Schedule Builder. If your enrollment date has already passed, you may choose to skip step 3. During this video, I will be using BearTracks and My Schedule Builder on a desktop computer. However, the interface should be much the same on a tablet or mobile phone. First, let's learn how to search for classes and add them to your schedule. Starting in BearTracks, we're going to click on the tile on the top row that says My Schedule Builder. Then, select the term you would like to build a schedule for. Your enrollment date should also appear on this screen. You won't see a timetable until you add some classes. To add a class, type the course name, the course code, or the instructor's name into the search bar, and then click on the class to add it to your schedule. Now, selecting the class allows you to view its location, its instructor, and some other details, and to see where it could fit in your schedule. Let's add a few more classes to the schedule. And that's how you add classes to your schedule. Next, we're going to see how My Schedule Builder lets you easily adjust your schedule to make it work for you. Once you've added the classes you want, you can fine-tune your schedule by adding personal time blocks when you would prefer not to have classes. The software will automatically place classes outside of these times as much as possible. To add a personal time block, click and drag on a part of your schedule where you'd prefer not to have classes. If you know you want to register in a specific section of a course, you can pin that course in your schedule by clicking on it. The schedule builder will not adjust pinned classes as you customize your schedule. Once you've pinned the sections you want and added personal times, you can use these arrow buttons to cycle through different possible variations of your schedule. Notice how the pinned classes don't change, but if I unpin them, there are more options available and they will move around. If a class you want to take is full, you can add yourself to the watch list to be notified if a spot becomes available. To add a class to your watch list, we recommend first adding it to your shopping cart. When searching for full classes, make sure you have selected the appropriate filter to show them, as they are hidden by default in My Schedule Builder and BearTracks. Once you've added the class or classes to your shopping cart, you can add them to your watch list by clicking on the Manage Classes tile in BearTracks. Select your desired term. Then click on Shopping Cart and Watch List. Now, select the classes from your shopping cart and click Add to Watch List. Now, there's one more thing we need to do that is incredibly important. To make sure you get an email when a spot opens in a class on your watch list, you need to turn on email notifications in BearTracks. To do this, go to the home page of BearTracks, click on the Notification Preferences tile, then make sure the email notifications is set to Yes. If you want to get emails to your personal email address and your UAlberta email, select Home from the drop-down menu. Otherwise, select University Provided to only have notifications sent to your UAlberta email. Click Save, then click Next. If a space becomes available in one of the classes on your watch list, you will receive an email that looks like this one. The link in the email will take you to BearTracks. Once on BearTracks, go to your shopping cart and select the class that now has open seats and click Enroll. One more important thing to note is that when you add a lecture and lab combination to your watch list, you will only receive an email if there are spots available in all the sections on your watch list. So in this example, there would need to be open seats in the lecture, the lab, and the seminar before you receive an email. Now that we have successfully built our schedule, we want to validate it. This important step will help ensure you are ready to enroll in all of your classes. If your enrollment date has already passed, you may skip this step. When you're happy with your schedule, the next step is to add it to your enrollment cart. Make sure all the classes you want are checked off on the left-hand side of your screen, and then click the green Get This Schedule button. If your enrollment date has not yet passed, there should only be an option to add to cart. However, if your enrollment date has passed, the default option on this page is to enroll. So if you wish to validate your courses, make sure to select Add to Cart. Then, when you're ready, click Do Actions. Click Continue. Now that we've added the courses to our cart, we can validate our enrollment course cart by clicking the button. My Schedule Builder will then confirm you are able to enroll in all of your selected classes, or it will display an error message saying why you can't enroll in a class, such as this one here. Now for the fun part, time to enroll. From the main screen, click Get This Schedule. Then, make sure all the options say either Checkout Enroll or Enroll. Then click Do Actions and click Continue. You will then get a confirmation message that you've been enrolled or an error message explaining why you couldn't be enrolled. And that's all. If you have any additional questions, you can visit uab.ca/reg. If you need to make changes to your schedule after you've enrolled, use the Manage Classes tile in BearTracks. You may also wish to consult faculty-specific resources or connect with your faculty advisor to receive support with course planning and academic advising. I hope you found this video helpful, and good luck registering in your classes.
So that is the basics of course registration. We do understand that this process can be stressful and overwhelming, and it does take time to go through the course catalog, go through your requirements, sit down and actually plan things out. So unfortunately, we are not able to schedule individual advising sessions to go over each student's schedule because every student will have a different schedule, and that is up to you. Which is why we've created so many online resources for you, such as the module at uab.ca/reg101, BearTrax user tips at uab.ca/reg, as well as this video workshop. You can consider making your schedule as your first university assignment. Best of luck.